Hello everyone. So anybody online? So please say hi if anybody is online. Hello Imanshi, good evening. Hello. Hello. Hi Zoya. So let's just wait for another 1 or 2 minutes so that more people will join. So am I audible? Is the voice fine? Are you able to listen to me? Say yes if you're able to listen to me properly. Good evening, Logoprin. Am I audible, sir? Hi, Saza. So there is some water wave like sound. Okay. Hello, Mitali. How about the sound? Is the sound okay? Good evening, Manish. Hello, Disha. So kindly confirm if the sound is okay, so that I can do the modifications if you want. Good evening, Sophia. Hello. So I am audible, right? So if I speak, you are able to catch this voice. Hi, Archana. Okay. Well, we'll start. I just left here yesterday, so we are in. So we are in the population ecology, the first stage. Just a very quick revision. We are going or proceeding in a very systematic manner. Okay. So yesterday we said there are three categories of or three groups of three age groups in a population. So one is pre-reproductive age. Okay. So which do not contribute in any kind of population improvement. Then reproductive age, so which actively contribute in population improvement, and one which is over matured, which are post reproductive stage, which also do not contribute in any population improvement. So these are the three categories, and if we try to come up with a graph with number of population predicting these three groups and getting the ratio of male and female, we are just imagining the male population and the female population are in equal ratio. So same ratio of male and female population. So if we try to come up or put it in a geographical graph, then probably this is what we will be getting. Okay, so this is the graph we will be getting. The first kind of curve or first kind of pattern what we get will be something like this. So the edges of the population pyramid, so it is called as population pyramid. So this pyramid basically has a convex kind of edges. So it forms a triangle with a larger base, right? So in this you can see that there is more number of population in pre-reproductive stage. There is more number of offsprings. The one which are in the reproductive stage are little lesser than the pre-reproductive stage, and the post-reproductive stage population is very less. So what could be the possible situation, or what could lead to this kind of population pattern? So the reason for this kind of population pattern is very high birth rate. BR stands for birth rate, and very high death rate. Okay, so when there is too much of birth rate and too much of death rate, then you can find this kind of population. Where will you find most of the this kind of population? So mainly in insects. So in small insects, mosquitoes and all. So there will be too much of young ones, and as they keep on growing, the population drastically reduces. So this is how it will be. And if you take the population of human beings and compare around countries, most of the countries which are in a very lower economical development, like Kenya or Ghana, so there you can find this kind of population, right? So the population is going to grow bigger, so still there is potential. So all these younger ones are going to enter into the reproductive stage. They are going to produce more and more young ones, and the population is going to expand. Okay, so it's a rapid growth. The key word for this is the rapid growth of population. Got it? This is the first kind of population pattern. So the second kind of age structure in a population can be seen, and if we depict it in a diagram, so you will get a proper triangular shaped pyramid, right? So when will be where will you get this kind of population pattern? Here there will be high birth rate. You can see that the birth rate has not reduced, and the death rate is also reduced. You can see little bit more number of population in the post reproductive stage. So this can happen when there is fall in death rate. Okay, so only when there is fall in death rate, you can say here the population is not expanding, but it is slowly increasing. The population is obviously increasing because there is more number of people. So yes, I mean, in African country you can find the rapid growth. So there is no guidance on population control. There is no government policies. So there is no education. So people don't know whether to control the population or not. So they are actively reproducing, and there is big growth of population. So because of less medical facility, less intervention from the government, less vaccines, less primary health centers, so less immediate attention to any kind of medical emergencies, so the death rates are also very high. People do not survive after a certain age. So that is the reason why there is high death rate, and you get this kind of curve. Here birth rate is again high, but there is a fall in death rate because there is a good medical facility. The people are being vaccinated. There is a government intervention. There are government hospitals. Medicines are available for free. So there is decrease in the death rate. Okay. So this kind of population pattern, you can find it in countries like India, right? So we have slow growth. We are growing, but we are growing very slowly. The third kind of pattern where the population is stable. So here basically there is declining birth rate. Birth rate is declining. People have got to know that more number of people, more expenses, and they are educated. The government is intervening in people having number of children. So that's why the birth rate is slowly declining. And obviously because of very high medical facility, very good medicines, vaccination, cure to almost all the diseases, there is very low death rate, declining birth rate and low death rate. So this is a kind of thing where the population is stable. So population is neither growing nor the population is shrinking, right? So this is the stable population is a kind of population where you can find in USA, United States of America, or good economies. The fourth kind of population pattern is found in countries where the population triangle gets a urn shaped, this shape, so like a pot, like a leaf. So this shape is called as urn shaped. Okay, urn shaped population curve, urn shaped population pyramid. So this is a bell shaped population pyramid. So this is a triangular shaped. So this is triangular with a larger base or a convex edges, right? So where do you, what will be the situation? What could lead to a shrinking kind of or urn shaped population pyramid? So here there will be low birth rate and low death rate, right? So the population, the number of individuals which are going to be born, they are very less, right? So if they go into the next reproductive stage, even this will reduce in coming years, and they will give rise to less number of individuals, and the population going to shrink. So the example of this kind of thing is Germany, Italy. So Italy is an example where there is this kind of population curve. So this is what is the population age distribution. So did you got it? Hello, good evening. So this is what, yeah, Japan is an example of shrinking population. Even in Japan there is population shrinking. I mean Qureshi, Japan is a very good example of shrinking population. So but if we see the shapes, so there are different kinds of growth which is happening in different kinds of shapes, right? So if you have understood this, then I'll go to the questions. I have two questions regarding this. One actually I have asked yesterday, so I'll ask it again. You might have to answer it again. And there is one more question regarding this, so that any question coming from this, so could be tackled easily. Okay, right. So we'll go to the questions. This is a question which has been asked in prelims 2011. So can you please look into the question and answer the question? What would be the right answer? Read the question carefully. Consider the 4 age pyramids given below, namely ABCD, representing 4 different countries. Which one of them indicates the declining population? Which will be the picture which depicts declining population? Can you please type the answer? Good evening, Ashu. Yes, Disha, it is C, right? You can see the diagram. So 1 is expanding, B is slowly growing, 3 is shrinking, and D is stable, right? You got the answer? More answers? Yes, C. Vijayalakshmi, C. Manish, C. Logoprian. Urn shaped, yes, Logoprian, C. C, right? Okay, you got this right. So hopefully you will be able to tackle any kind of question which they give the same kind of shapes and ask you what kind of population it is, right? So because it is in 2011, it's been 9 years they have asked a question on this. So probably even in this year prelims there might be a question regarding this. So I have one more question for you. Can you please answer this question? Which type of age pyramid is made up of stable population? Can you please answer this? हिंदी में चाहिए? यस अरुण यादव, आपको हिंदी का चाहिए तो मैं एक और लेक्चर बना दूंगा हिंदी में, पर ये इंग्लिश सीरीज का है तो आप प्लीज समझ लीजिए. अगर कुछ समझ में नहीं आए तो मुझे पूछ लीजिए, मैं बता दूंगा आपको. फिलहाल इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर दीजिए. प्लीज गिव आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन. विच सिंबल, अमीन कुरैशी, Amin Qureshi is asking, is this symbol is important? What symbol you are talking about? Okay, so the answer is B. B. Yes, Disha. Yes, Logoprin. Yes, Himanshi. The answer is B. That's right. So usually, stable population is seen in, if there is a stable population, the kind of age pyramid which happens will be bell-shaped age pyramid, right? So the one which is like this, there will be neither any growth nor any shrinking. So the population will be stable. The number of people who are born will be equal to the number of people who are dying, right? So the population is maintained. There is no growth, right? Okay. Fine. Let's move ahead. Okay, population growth. So what do you mean by population growth? Population growth is whether the population is either increasing or it is decreasing, right? So population growth can happen because of four main factors, right? So population growth can be because of fecundity and natality. That's the first factor. Death, we also call it as mortality, right? Immigration and emigration, right? So these are the four kind of four factors which are dependent on or on which the population growth is dependent. Let's try to understand one by one. So the fecundity. So what do you mean by fecundity? So this term is very close to the term fertility. Okay. So fecundity is almost similar to fertility, but you cannot take it as interchangeable form because fecundity is little different from fertility. So basically, when you say fecundity, fecundity is the ability to give rise to young one. Okay. So whatever the ability of a young one to give rise, ability of an individual to give rise to a young one, that is called as fecundity. Whereas there is fertility. When you say fertility, it is the actual number of individuals or young ones one gives birth to. So how many number of young ones a particular individual has given birth to after birth, that number is called as fertility. That gives the fertility. But the ability of an individual to give rise to a young one is called as fecundity, right? So why I am differentiating this is there could be a situation where an organism may be a fecund. It may be having ability, but because it may not get in a proper mate, it may not get good environment, so it might not be fertile. An individual who is fecund might not always be fertile, but all the fertile individuals will definitely be fecund. if there is fertility, if it gives rise to a young one, obviously it was a fecund one, that's why it was able to give rise to a new one. So that is called as fecundity. So the ability to give rise to young one is one of the factor which is responsible for population growth. So natality, second one is natality. Natality is also called as birth rate. So when you say birth rate, it is total number of individuals divided by total population. How many number of birth are there per total population, right? So basically you will be calculating the birth rate by counting the number of birth over 1000 persons. So per 1000 person, how many number of individuals have given birth. So that is how the natality is taken care. The ecological term used for birth rate is natality, and the ecological term for ability to give rise to young one is called as fecundity. So in natality there is two things, absolute natality and realized natality. When you say absolute natality, this is the number of individuals which are born in a very ideal situation, when you have maximum resources, when you have no enemies, when you have proper environmental conditions, when everything is fine, just like ideal condition, just like perfect condition. In that condition, if an individual gives rise to a young one, how many number of individuals we can give birth to the young ones? That is called as absolute natality. Realized natality is the actual number of individuals which are born in the actual real situations. Like, what do you find in real situation? In real situation, it is hostile. The environment conditions will not be perfect. There won't be proper nutrition. There won't be proper, there will be a lot of enemies. All these situations, it is very hard to give rise to young one. There is always fear of being attacked by its enemies, or die without food. So in that situation, in that hostile situation, how many number of young ones are born? That is called as realized natality, right? So that's one thing. Okay. So that's one thing. Yes, I mean, you can take a note, but obviously I'll share this in the Telegram channel. So you might not be, you might not have to take any notes. So just try to understand, try to be with me, just try to understand what exactly is fecundity. I'll also tell you how the questions come from this, right? So you might not need an explanation, but I need you to understand these concepts, what it exactly means, right? So fecundity, natality. What is death? Death is number of people dying. कितने लोग मर जाते हैं? How many people will die, right? So that is called as a death, right? So we also call it as mortality. So more number of death, if more number of people are dying, then the population growth will decrease. If more fecundity, more natality, population growth will increase, right? What is immigration? Immigration, immigrants. Thank you, Arun. As I said, there is a separate Hindi channel for in Unacademy, where only Hindi lectures will be taken. So I'll try to come up with a course for that. But right now, I have to stick with English because it's an English channel. So kindly pardon me for that. Okay, so immigration. The Telegram group name is given at the description, Jayendra. Right, so at the end of the description of this lecture in the YouTube, there is a link to the Telegram channel. Fine, the third factor is Samra, the link is there in the description of this YouTube link, right? If you go to the description, you'll get it. Okay, immigration is when a particular number of individuals move in from some other place, right? So I'll give you an example. So immigration is, you have, like, you know, India and you have Myanmar. So you might remember, you know, a couple of years back, there was an issue on Rohingya Muslims. Okay, a lot of Rohingya Muslims who were oppressed in Myanmar, they came as refugees to India. So they got immigrants. So we usually call them, you know, immigrants, illegal immigrants, you know, and all. So because those people, you know, get in, so those are the immigrants. So what happened to the population of India? Because they got immigrated here, the number of people in our country increased. So that led to population growth. So immigration is another factor which leads to population growth. So the fourth factor is emigration. So what do you mean by emigration? Emigration is people moving out from one place to another place, one area to another area, right? Say for example, for Myanmar, what happened? If 2-3 lakhs of people move out from one country to another country, then they'll be emigrating from that country. What happened to the population growth? So the population growth will decrease, right? So these are the four factors on which the population growth is, you know, dependent upon. So if you represent the change in population as delta, if the change in population is delta, delta will be equal to the fecundity plus immigration, fecundity plus immigration minus death plus emigration. Are you getting it? Fecundity, immigration increases the population, death and emigration decreases the population. Whatever the difference is, that is what is depicted as delta, which is the change in population. Okay, that depicts the change in population. So this is about population growth. Now let's take some questions. So kindly answer this. Population growth is not dependent upon. अरुण यादव, डेफिनेटली मैं हिंदी में भी पढ़ाऊंगा. मैं एक और लेक्चर लूंगा, पूरा कोर्स को हिंदी में पढ़ाऊंगा, पर फिलहाल अभी ये इंग्लिश का क्लास है. सो आई कैन नॉट टीच इन हियर बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ व्यूअर्स विल नॉट बी एबल. बहुत सारे लोगों को हिंदी नहीं आता है इधर, सो दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव बीन अटेंडिंग द इंग्लिश चैनल. सो काइंडली एक्सक्यूज मी. मैं आपको फिर से एक और कोर्स लेंगे जिसमें हिंदी में आपको समझाया जाएगा ये पूरा कोर्स. ओके, okay, so Disha has answered. Population growth is not dependent on migration. Definitely. What is migration basically? How do you define migration? Can you tell me what exactly migration is? Why it doesn't, you know, contribute in? Somshekhar, B. B is not an answer, Somshekhar, because immigration, actually you can see here. So these are the four factors, and immigration actually, you know, deals with population growth. So if some of the people, say for example, let's forget about countries. There is a forest. In that forest, there are 100 lions, right? So let's say 100 deers, right? There is another forest besiding, there are some 50 deers. So because of forest fire, all these deers came into this forest. Okay, so there will be addition of 50 deers to this forest. So they are immigrating. Okay, they are the immigrants to this forest. So immigration actually leads to population growth. The population has grown in this forest. So that is why there is a population growth, right? Yes. Why, Sophia? I'm asking the answer is D. That is absolutely right. You have answered it right. But please tell me why migration doesn't lead to population growth. So migration is like, moving from one place to another. No, Rekha, migration is not moving within the country. Migration is like, when some of the migrant birds travel from Siberia to South Africa. But still, even though they move from one place to another, they do not contribute in population increment. Why? Yes, Amin Qureshi, they move from one place to another. So does the immigrants or emigrants, right? But why migration is not considered to be a factor for population growth? Even then, even for education job, there is a increase in the population, but still we do not consider. Anybody wants to try why migration is not a factor responsible for population growth? See, let me tell you, there is a place A, there is a place B. I'll tell you the difference between Disha, you are very near to that. So I'll explain it in a proper manner. So when you say immigrants, then the population or the number of persons move from place A to place B permanently. They have no intention of coming back, right? So they are moving permanently and they are moving back. But in what happens in migration, so they will move in one particular season for some comfort, and when the season is again favorable, they'll come back to their place, right? So some of the migration population, so if the population like Amur falcon, there is a bird called as Amur falcon. So this Amur falcon, they come from this Siberian region. So they'll travel, they'll come to Nagaland, they'll go to Western Ghats. From there, they will cross the Arabian Sea. They'll go to South Africa in the winter season when there is too cold in the Siberian region. Once the Siberian region cold season is complete, they'll come back in the same pathway and they'll go back to their actual place. They don't stay in South Africa. So we cannot say that they are the immigrants to South Africa. Okay, or they are immigrants from Siberia. So they are migrants because they'll come and they'll go back, right? So that's why they do not contribute in population increment, right? This is a very tricky question. So that's why you might get confused if at all the question comes from this. So this is what is population growth, right? Fine. Coming to the next thing, patterns of population growth. So this is very important. The population can grow in two manners, right? So the first one is exponential growth, okay, and the second one is logistic growth. So when you say exponential growth, this kind of growth is seen in an environment where there is huge resources. When an individual is into a new environment, there'll be less number of individuals and there'll be huge resources, less enemies. So you can see instantly in a very short time the population gets huge rise. They'll just rise very fastly. Instantly there'll be growth. So this forms a kind of J-shaped curve. All right. So the species which are present or which gives this kind of population growth, they are called as rate maximizing species, or simply R adopted species. So this is a very important term, R adopted species, right? So rate maximizing species are adopted species. So these are the the opportunity proliferations. Whenever you get opportunity, they'll just increase in their number, right? So some of the examples, you can get the examples of weeds, okay, mosquitoes, right? So, or you can whenever you might have seen when the bamboo flowers. So when the bamboo flowers, there are two kind of flowering. One is sporadic, one is gigantic. Okay, so when the bamboo flowering takes place, gregarious flowering takes place. This was in fact a question in UPSC mains. Why there will be famine because of bamboo flowering? When the bamboo flowers, there will be so huge production of nutritious flowers by a particular species of bamboo all across the geographical area that the rat population will increase. So the rat population increases to such an extent, there will be rapid exponential growth of rat population. Once it expands, it will eat up the flowers and it will reproduce more. There will be more number of rats, but the next year they won't be having any flower to feed, so they'll start attacking the human agriculture fields. So wherever there is gregarious flowering, there are high chances that it might lead to famine because the rat eat up all the grains. Okay, so this was a UPSC mains question, why gregarious flowering in bamboo might lead to famine. Okay, so that is an example, rats during bamboo flowering. So that is when the exponential growth happens. Okay, fine. So growth cannot happen indefinitely. So at some point of time, they should stop. Okay. So the second kind of growth called logistic growth, here the population growth at stable rate. Okay. So they'll grow to a stable rate up to a finite stage. Okay. So it is called as carrying capacity. And after it reaches a upper limit of carrying capacity, the population stabilizes. Okay, so instantly there will be a slow growth, then at some point of time there will be increase in growth, they'll start growing, and once they reach the carrying capacity, they will stabilize. Okay, the population stabilizes. So what is carrying capacity? Carrying capacity basically is the number of individuals a particular environment can support, right? If there are 50 deers in a particular forest, it can support 1 or 2 tigers. Okay, that's it. So that kind of resource, the resources and the space and the environment which a particular environment can offer, that can support an individual, that is called as carrying capacity. So to understand it better, I'll give an example of Gir forest. In Gujarat there is a Gir forest. So Gujarat is the only place where lions are found, Asiatic lions are found in its natural habitat. So the Gir forest is exceeding the carrying capacity. The number of lions which the Gir forest can support is been increasing. The number of lions are increasing in Gir, and Gir is not able to support that much number of lions. So that's why the lions are moving here and there, and they're entering the villages, they're killing the cattle. And there was even a lion translocation program, and there was a question in UPSC on this. So there was a question, which is the area which is proposed to translocate the lions from the Gir forest? So the answer is Palpur Kuno. Okay, in Madhya Pradesh, Kuno Palpur. So this was earlier a lion habitat, and then everything got extinct in that area. So now there are no lions. There is a proposal for translocation of lions from Gir forest to this area in Madhya Pradesh, right? So that is what is carrying capacity. Okay, so carrying capacity is the finite upper limit of the population, where the population reaches a stage which the environment cannot support beyond. Okay, here there is more number of individuals, and there is less resources. So every individual gets a smaller share to survive, and once it reaches, the population more or less reaches a stable stage. Okay, so the question could be like, yeah, humans also, like, once they reach the carrying capacity, the population will stabilize. Yes, I mean, that is what is the situation. So these are the two shapes. So the logistic growth will have S-shaped curve. Okay, you can see the S-shaped sigmoid curve. So this is what is the thing. Okay, so here the species which will be present, or which will be showing the less area, is a major problem, definitely. So the species which shows logistic growth, they are called as K adopted species, right? So you have R adopted species and K adopted species. The question could be very simple. So which kind of organisms shows a J-shaped curve? It's K adopted, R adopted. So you can ask any organism like mosquitoes or insects. Okay, the example of logistic growth usually are large mammals. So here there will be the number of offsprings which they are giving rise to, they are less in number, but they will be large in size. Okay, larger size, less number of species or less number of individuals will be given birth to. So this is what is the population of the patterns of population growth, right? Moving ahead, survivorship curve. Okay, so survivorship curve is another important topic in population, where you can find three kind of curves. One is type 1, type 2, second one is type 2, and third is type 3. So if you count the number of survivors, okay, and the age in relative units, what happens in the early stage, in the type 1 curve? So as an individual is born, at the initial stage there will be less mortality. You can see the number of individuals who are born. As the age exceeds, there will be very less, little bit death, little bit death, little bit death, and after that, at some point, the death stabilizes. There won't be any death, and whoever survives, they continues to survive. Okay, say this is 70 years. They continue to survive till their biological age, lifespan. So initially there will be very less number of deaths, and after whoever has to die, whoever survives, they will live till their biological age, and after that they start dying. The death rate or the number of population decreases. There will be more death, more death, more death. At particular point of time, there will be all the individuals die. Okay, that is what you will find in type 1 population. Usually examples are humans, large mammals, and others. That is the first type of survivorship curve. The second kind of survivorship curve, so here, as the organism takes birth, at every stage of life there will be more or less same amount of individuals who are dying. They will be dying as they are born. Okay, so they will be having some kind of enemy at the younger stage, and as they keep on aging, they'll some of the individuals keep dying, and they'll be having different kinds of enemies at some stage mid-age, and as they grow up, they're also having enemies at the different enemy at the last stage, and they finally die as the age drops. That means from birth till death, the death will be constant. They will die at all the stages. Okay, from birth, middle age, end age, there will be constant death, and that's why the graph comes as a straight line. Okay, so this is a kind of curve we get in type 2 animals. Example is small mammals, rabbits, okay, rats and other things. Third kind of curve, this is a type 3 curve, and in this curve what happens, as soon as an individual is born, there will be huge number of deaths. Okay, so maximum number of death will happen within a very short period. Say for example, before they attain from 0 to say just 2-3 years, so there will be huge death, and whoever lives to continue, they will continue, and they keep on dying, and finally they'll die at this stage. Okay, so there'll be the number of individuals will be eliminated at a very early stage of life. Okay, one of the typical example for this is mosquito. Okay, mosquito or insects or some kind of amphibians like frogs. So turtle, yes, turtle is another example. So once they once they give birth to young one, there will be huge number of death at the initial stage, and whoever survives continue to live, and they keep on dying. This is the third stage. Okay, these are the 3 types. So the question could be like through examples. So large mammals gives which kind of a survivorship curve? Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. Okay, so any kind of this. Small insects and mosquitoes give type 3 kind of curve. Okay, so that's another concept. The last concepts in population is population stabilization. See, as a population reaches the carrying capacity, it more or less maintains same amount of population. So that is called as population stabilization. See, population stabilization is dependent upon 2 factors. One is density independent factors, and second one is density dependent factors. Let's try to understand what this means, because the question could be like this. I'll come back to this slide. So first try to answer this question. Okay, just try to answer this question. So let's see if you could answer this question, and then I'll go back and I'll explain what exactly that thing means. Can you please answer this question? Which of the following is not a density dependent factor for population stabilization? Yes, anybody? Okay, Disha says it's B. Rekha says A. Wow. Amin says it's C. So this is the last concept in population ecology. So please think and give. This is a question, and I have seen a very good number of questions on population stability, or density dependent factors in most of the state PSCs. Okay, so this is a very important topic from where the question might come from, and the question will be like this. I'm not saying these are the things which they give. Someone else says B. And yes, the answer is B. Let's go back. Let's go back and see, have a look at how to tackle this kind of question, right? How to address this kind of question. Well, as I said, there are some factors which are dependent on density, and there are some factors which are not dependent on density. Okay, so ones which are not dependent on density we call as density independent factors, and ones which are dependent we call it as density dependent factors. Say for example, let's take one by one, just an example. Food. If food is not available, then there will be stabilization or decrease in the population irrespective of its density. Say for example, if there are 100 lions, or in the second situation there are around 5 lions. Okay, so 100 lions is like where there is dense population, 5 lions is not so dense population, the population density is not high. So if food is not available, if there are 5 lions, then also they'll die. If there are 100 lions, then also they'll die. So this food is one such factor which is independent of density, right? It is independent of density. Again, space, shelter, weather. If there is weather, say for example there is a forest fire. Okay, if forest fire, no matter whether the density, population density is less or population density is high, so all the population will die. Okay, so these are the factors which are independent of density. They are not dependent on whether population is dense or not. Okay, population stabilization depends on weather. Weather is one such factor which is independent of density. That's what it means. Okay, so let's look at some of the density dependent factors. So when you say density dependent factors, these are the factors which actually are dependent on density. Like for example, competition. So there will be huge population density, there will be competition. If the population density is less, there won't be any competition. So competition is one such factor which is dependent on density. This factor changes or influences depending on whether the population is dense or not. Predation, obviously, it is also a factor which is dependent on population. Emigration is a kind of factor which is dependent on population. So likewise, reproduction, diseases, all these factors are dependent on population. Of course, there is good number of density, then there will be reproduction, huge reproduction. If there is very less density, there won't be reproduction. Okay, it is dependent on population. See, there is no way you can mug up these factors, but try to understand whenever there is any option given like this in the question. So think whether this factor, if applicable, if there is density, or if it is doesn't matter if there is density or not, this factor is irrespectively applicable, right? So if you have to remember these acronyms, I found it online. Okay, so mnemonic here is PANDA POV. Okay, so the POV of PANDA, the PANDA stands for predators, availability of resources, nutrient supply, disease, and accumulation of waste. The PANDA, this is a thing for density dependent factors. Okay, and for density independent factor, natural disaster, phenomena. Okay, weather, we call it as weather. Abiotic factors, okay, so sorry, weather conditions. Abiotic factors like temperature, carbon dioxide, floods, storms, fire, natural disasters. So you can remember it with PAW, POV. Okay, PANDA POV gives rise to a mnemonic where you can remember some density dependent factors and density independent factors. All right, so that is what it is. So instead of doing this, just understand the concept, and whenever there is a question like this, you can always answer thinking whether that particular factor is influencing or dependent on density or independent of density. Is it all right? So did you got the concept? Because I have seen many questions from this. in state PSCs, so there are very high chances that if the examiner want to go much deeper into the question section and ask you, they can ask you this. They can give you 4 options and they can ask you whether that particular factor is density dependent or density independent, right? So this is the last topic for population ecology is done with this. So the next topic which we'll be discussing will be community ecology. So as it's time up, so we'll stop here, and if you have any doubt, kindly go ahead and ask the doubts. So I'll be happy to answer, or if you have any suggestions or any questions, any queries regarding population ecology, so I'll be happy to answer. Yes, kindly reply. Is it okay? All right, everybody has understood. So the mnemonic was extremely useful. Thank you so much, Logopriyan. Yes, this is like, this is a good way to remember the things. The A is in both the sides. You have to remember that density dependent factors, its availability of resources, and the A in independent factors is abiotic factors. So so that is what it is. All right. So any other queries? And now you can answer this question. The disease is density dependent, competition is density dependent, predator is density dependent, and weather is the one which is density independent. Right? Okay. So that is what I had to offer for today. So tomorrow hopefully we'll be having the class at the same time. I'll pick up with community ecology. So community ecology is the stage of ecological study which has almost all the important concepts. The most of the important concepts in ecology can be studied under community ecology, right? So it may be ecotone, edge effect, it may be niche, it may be succession, and most of the topics, most of the important topics of ecology are dealt under community ecology. So we'll be starting with community ecology tomorrow, and we'll be picking up from there, right? So thank you so much. This is the end. So hopefully we'll be meeting tomorrow, and we'll take up and we'll carry on. So if there is any questions, so kindly let me know. Okay, so if it is clear, then that's good. I mean, thank you. Jai Hind. Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Disha. Thank you, Logopriyan. All right, thank you everyone. It was wonderful interacting with you. So we'll meet tomorrow, right? So thank you so much. Thank you so much.